The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and a faint, sweet milkiness. I sat beside the bed holding Sarah's hand, which was cool and thin despite the flush of exhaustion on her cheeks. She was looking not at me but at the tiny, swaddled bundle on her chest. "He's perfect, isn't he, Ethan?" she whispered, her voice a brittle thread. "He is, Sarah." "Absolutely perfect," I managed, my throat tight. I wasn't his father, but as Sarah's best friend since kindergarten, I felt every pulse of the emotional earthquake shaking her small world. This was Aiden. 7 pounds, 4 ounces of complicated, beautiful life. Sarah had had him alone. She had endured the pregnancy, the whispers, the judgmental glances, and the lonely nights because she refused to tell the father, a man who had made it crystal clear he had no interest in fatherhood, that he had a son. She had fought for Aiden, but the fight had taken a brutal toll. A rare, aggressive form of cancer had been discovered during her last trimester. They'd induced labor to give him a chance, but it had bought Sarah only weeks. "Ethan," she said, turning her gaze on me, her eyes, usually so vibrant, now enormous and pleading. "I need you to promise me something." I leaned in, bracing myself. "Anything, Sarah. You know that I'm not going to see him grow up, but I can't leave him alone. He can't go into the system. Please," she gasped, a tear tracing a path down her temple. "Raise him for me." The request was a physical blow. Me? The perpetually single, slightly awkward software engineer whose most complex commitment was keeping his houseplants alive? "Sarah, I don't know anything about babies," I stammered, the fear a cold weight in my stomach. She squeezed my hand, a surprising strength in her grip. "You know how to love, Ethan. You're the kindest person I know. You'll be his godfather, his guardian, his father. Please, tell me you will, for me, for Aiden." Looking from her face, a beloved face I knew better than my own, to the sleeping infant whose life was already intertwined with mine, there was only one answer. I couldn't deny her. I couldn't deny him. "I promise, Sarah," I choked out, the words a sacred, unbreakable oath. "I'll raise Aiden. I'll take care of him. I will be his father." She smiled then, a pure, radiant smile that briefly vanquished the exhaustion and fear. It was the last truly happy moment I shared with my best friend. Sarah passed away a week later, holding Aiden's tiny hand, leaving me, a terrified 28-year-old, as the sole parent to a newborn baby. The first 6 months were a blur of sleepless nights, complicated formulas, and a constant, low-grade panic. I was immediately granted legal custody, no other family was in the picture, and I became dad. I learned through trial and error, and through the patient director of the childcare center. I learned that there was a kind of exhausting, terrifying, all-consuming joy in seeing a little human you were responsible for smile back at you. As the years passed, the fear receded, replaced by a deep, unwavering love. Aiden was a spirited toddler with a cloud of unruly brown hair and eyes the color of a stormy sea, a shade darker than Sarah's. He was full of energy and had a giggle that could dislodge the deepest cynicism. Sarah had refused to ever name the father. "He doesn't deserve to be a part of Aiden's life, Ethan," she had told me fiercely. I respected her wish absolutely. In our home, our small, perfect little family, I was simply Aiden's father. When Aiden turned 5, I went to the kindergarten fundraiser. I was sipping cheap wine when a voice cut through the low hum. "Ethan? Is that you? Ethan Jones?" I turned and my breath hitched. Victor Sterling. He was taller, more polished, and more handsome than I remembered, with the same piercing, dark eyes that had haunted my teenage dreams. "Wow, you're a dad. That's incredible. I'm here for my daughter, Chloe." "Small world, huh?" he said. The thought of socializing with Victor, after a decade of silence following our complicated past, was unsettling. I told him I was Aiden's father and left quickly, but as I drove past, I saw him waiting, and a woman, definitely not his wife, just his law partner as he later explained, came by to drop something off. Victor was single. The old familiar ache of lost friendship returned. A few weeks later, Victor called with a proposal. He needed a trustworthy sitter for Chloe for a few weeks, while his law partner was away. Since I was already doing the school run with Aiden, he begged me to do it. The idea of Aiden having a constant playmate and Victor needing me was too potent to resist. "I can do that, Vic," I agreed. The arrangement began the following Monday. I met Chloe at the kindergarten gate. She was a quiet, serious little girl with a cascade of dark ringlets and eyes the exact same stormy gray as Aiden. I shook it off as a coincidence. They just both looked a lot like Victor. Over the next few weeks, Aiden and Chloe became inseparable. They were like two halves of a whole, speaking their own little language. It was a joy to watch, but the hidden truth was a growing pressure. Then, one rainy afternoon, as the kids were drawing in the living room, it all came undone. Aiden showed me his frantic truck drawing, and Chloe handed me her princess picture. What caught my attention wasn't the princess, but a small, neat signature in the corner. Not just her name, Chloe Sterling, but underneath it, in a small, elegant script, S. Peterson. Sarah Peterson. My best friend's maiden name. "Mine's a princess." My mommy did. She helped me with my letters, Chloe said. Your mommy's name is Sarah?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "No," Chloe said, shaking her head impatiently. "My mommy's name is Vanessa. That's her old pen. She said it was an old pen from her friend, Aunt Sarah. She wrote that name on it, and I copied it Aunt Sarah. Sarah Peterson. My Sarah." The striking, undeniable resemblance between the two children, the shared cheekbones, the identical serious set to their mouths, the same exact shade of stormy sea eyes, slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. The pieces which I had so diligently ignored snapped into a terrifying, devastating picture. Sarah's secret, the momentary lapse of judgment. It hadn't been a random stranger. It had been Victor Sterling. I went completely still, then lurched up, my chair clattering to the hardwood floor. I retreated to the kitchen, my hands shaking as I called Victor. "You need to come over right now. We need to talk," I managed, my voice dangerously level. "It's about Aiden, Victor. And Chloe. And Sarah." The line went dead quiet. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't say anything to the kids," he said, his voice stripped bare of its usual confidence. When he arrived, his face was pale, dread replacing his charm. "Tell me, Vic. Tell me the truth." He looked down at his shoes, then back at me. "Yes, Ethan. It's true. Aiden is my son," I exploded. "You knew I was raising him? You kept your mouth shut?" "I didn't know. Sarah told me she was pregnant and that she was keeping the baby, but she also made it clear that I was not to be a part of his life. She said her best friend would be the father. When I saw you, I didn't connect the dots. Not until I saw Aiden's eyes. And his name. I was going to tell you, Ethan. I just needed time." I was a coward. He revealed that Sarah had cut him out because she knew he was trying to make things work with Chloe's mother, Vanessa, and didn't want to destroy that family. "I promised Sarah," I roared. "I promised her I would be his father. You gave up that right, but he's my son too. You can't keep me out of his life now that I know." "Watch me," I hissed. "I am the one who raised him. I am Dad. You are a shadow, a complication Sarah explicitly told me to protect him from. Get out." He backed out, his shoulders slumped, leaving me alone with the sickening reality. Over the next few weeks, I ignored Victor's frantic texts, communicating only for the necessary handoffs. I clung tighter to Aiden, terrified that my time as his sole father was ending. Aiden noticed. "You aren't talking to Uncle Victor." "Are you mad?" he asked. My heart broke with every lie. One night, while tucking him in, Aiden asked to see a picture of Sarah. "She was so beautiful, wasn't she, Dada?" he whispered. "I miss her." "Me too, Aiden." Me too in that moment, holding his small hand. I knew I couldn't uphold Sarah's vow by lying. Sarah wanted Aiden safe and loved, not shielded from a truth that was now playing on my living room floor. Victor cornered me outside my office, forcing a conversation. It's not good for the kids, Ethan. Chloe feels it too, I relented. We met later that night. He was exhausted and raw. He spoke again of Sarah's decision not as an act of malice but of self-sacrifice, saving him from a burden and my family from conflict. You are an amazing father, Ethan. No one can dispute that, but he is also my son, and Chloe's brother. You can't separate them forever. We struck a difficult bargain. We would wait to tell Aiden the full truth, but Victor would be allowed to be a much closer uncle, slowly building a bond. This was the only way I could proceed without feeling I had completely broken my sacred oath to Sarah. Over the next year, Victor became a regular fixture. He taught Aiden baseball, something I was useless at. They laughed with the easy camaraderie of father and son, and I watched, my heart both aching and swelling with a strange, complex joy. Chloe and Aiden's sibling bond deepened instantly. They were inseparable, a constant reminder of the truth I carried. But Aiden, now 7, was getting smarter, more observant. "Da, why do Chloe and I have the same hair? Are we twins?" he asked one day. I struggled to answer, and then came the inevitable question. I know Mommy is gone, but do I have another papa too, who went away like Mommy? His innocence shattered the wall of my lies. I called Victor. "It's over," he's asking. "I can't lie anymore." "I know," Victor said, defeat in his voice. "We tell him. Together. But one thing is clear. I am his dad. You are his biological father, and that will be a separate role." The following Saturday morning, we sat Aiden down at the dining table, Victor and I on either side of him. I told him about Sarah's bravery and the promise I made. Then I turned to Victor and he told Aiden the story, the messy mistake, Sarah's decision to protect everyone, and his deep regret for not being there. Finally, Victor looked his son in the eye. "Aiden, I am your biological father. Ethan is your dad, but my genes are in you. And that's why you and Chloe look so much alike. You are siblings." Aiden's reaction was not shock or anger, but simple 7-year-old logic. He looked at me. "Is it true, Dad?" "Yes, Aiden. It's true." He looked at Victor. "So, you won't go away now?" "Never," Victor promised, his voice thick with tears. Aiden considered us both, then smiled, a small, hopeful curve of the lips. "I get 2 dads?" His answer melted away all the years of fear and guilt. He embraced Victor, then he clutched me fiercely. My promise to Sarah had been kept, though not in the way I had originally envisioned. I had raised him. I was his father. But Sarah's secret had finally created a larger, more complex, and ultimately stronger family. Aiden still called me Dad, and he had a new connection with Victor, a connection he cherished. I had set out to protect Aiden from his truth, but the truth, once revealed, gave him a sister and 2 fathers who loved him fiercely. The vow to Sarah was not broken. It had simply expanded to include the complex, messy, beautiful reality of our blended life. I was still Dad, and now my life was fuller than I had ever thought possible. If you liked this story, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional and true stories every week. Your support means a lot. It helps me bring more inspiring stories to you.